So today we are going to be hemming a pair of really nice bespoke trousers. So these ones here have a quite big seam allowance. I say that's around 5 cm, 5 centimeters. And the goal is to attach this together, to hand sew it together, but to not have it visible on the outside. That is the whole goal of bespoke hemming trousers. Bespoke trousers. So what you'll need is you'll need your needle threaded. For demonstrational purposes, I'm using a white thread so you can see it. Otherwise, you have to use the same color as your fabric. You also need your thimble. So to start, the way you do this is when you have to open up your hem like this. So it's literally like inside out. And this is the direction of how you will be sewing. You will hold it like this in your hand, so it's kind of inside out. You will flip open this part and hold it down with your thumb. Now, depending if you're left-handed or right-handed, I am left-handed, so I will be working in the direction of going left, which is actually backward sewing. And if you're right-handed, you go the other way. But everything besides that remains the same. Both left and right-handed people. So what you start with, so basically the whole way through you will keep folding it over around this distance here, and you'll always be holding it down with your thumb. It's quite important to keep a straight line when you do it as well. It just helps with keeping it pretty much in order and keeping it very nice and neat as well. So we will start. I will make a knot here. One, two, and I will make a tiny little attachment knot with a couple threads on the other side too. So the way we start is like this. You move over around 1 cm. It honestly varies, but it's around 1 cm. And you want to catch a few hairs, I say hairs, but I actually mean threads, on the bottom side, and you pull. Now when you pull, you never pull super tight, because when you pull super tight, it's going to pucker and you're going to see it on the outside of the trousers. So you do it very lightly and you leave it a little bit with a bit of space like that. And then right above, you do another stitch like that and you catch a few threads. But it's important that when you do it on this one here, on this side of the fabric, which is actually the outside fabric, you really just take a couple threads like that, or one or a couple. Because otherwise you're going to see the little dots on the outside. Then you pull like that. And then I'm going to go up here again and pull. I'm going to do it again around the same distance, 1 cm. Try to keep it as consistent as possible. And up. So then it kind of looks like this then. And then you just keep going, leaving a pretty good distance. Like this one, for example, I'm gonna leave it, it's okay. It's better leave a bit more than a bit less. So I'm gonna continue here. So, and after you have finished, you'll want it to look like this. You can barely see anything. Now you do see these white dots because I used white thread, but that's the exact reason why you need to use the color of this fabric, because otherwise if it was the same color you would just not see it. But it's normal that you can sometimes see a tiny dot like that, but at least it doesn't pucker or anything. And this is what it looks like on the inside. A nice elegant crossed stitch, and so it's super movable, so that if someone moves in these trousers, it will not rip. It will just move, but it will not rip the thread at all. And that's the whole point of this stitch. Today we will be covering how to hem a bespoke trouser that has a turn up. So when you want to create a turn up on the hem of your bespoke trousers, you have to add on quite a few centimeters. It always depends on what kind of turn up you'd like to have. This line here, this is the end of my trousers. So all of this is extra fabric that I added on when I created the pattern and cut out my trousers, which is a total, in my case, of around 10 centimeters. So as you see, the first turn up is around 4 and 4 again. So how you turn it up, this part is the part that goes inside, and then this part folds over on top here. When you've turned it up here, it'll basically look like this. So this is the end of my trousers. So to start, you will need your thimble, your needle, I like to use thin ones, and your thread. For this purpose, I will be using white thread for demonstrational purposes, but usually you should pick the exact same color thread as your fabric, but this is just for demonstration. So with our turn up, how we will start is this. We will first thread the needle. After I have my needle threaded like this, basically we'll need it, we do not need a double, but I just like to give myself enough because you do need extra thread on this so you need more than you think. So we're gonna start, we're gonna open. So I usually like starting exactly where this seam is on the sides. So what you do is you turn up a bit like this. So it's basically your pointing finger is right in between and you fold it up. In this case, since we have only a couple centimeters of excess fabric, seam allowance, I'm only folding it up around 1 cm, but sometimes you may have a bit more, and so you just fold up. Basically, we will be sewing here, and this just has to cover it. So first of all, you start by making a knot, and I actually do the knot in this part, not in this part. So next, if you are left-handed, you're going to be going this direction, and if you're right-handed, you'll be going this direction. So, and I'm left-handed, so I will be going this way. So left-handed goes the left way. So you're basically going backwards. You're sewing backwards. So now that since I started here, what I will do is I will around 1 centimeter, I would say minimum 1 centimeter, even a bit more. You can leave yourself a bit of distance. Then you poke through your upper fabric around a few hairs like that. A few hairs, I like to say it was a few threads actually. It's very similar to the cross stitch, but on this one, it's very important that you do not pull very harshly at all. You actually have to leave it quite open and quite, it just cannot pull so that it just doesn't create puckering later on. So now we've done one, then around the same distance, you poke through your thread here as well, exactly on the same line. And this one, since it is the outside fabric, you do have to be very careful with not picking up too many threads. So I really pick up as little as possible, like this, for example. Very, very little. And it looks like little, but when you have very many of them all the way around the hem, it does hold very, very well. So like this, so I can see my thread, but it's not tight. And then I continue again on the same line, and I just pick it up from here. What's also very good is that before you sew with your thread, that you do wax your thread, because waxed thread is definitely much stronger and it's definitely recommended for hemming trousers. It gives much more strength to the thread, it's longer lasting, and it's also easier to sew with afterwards because it's more firm, so it doesn't create knots as easily. So here I will do the same thing again, a few threads and pull. And once again on the bottom side here, a few threads and pull. So now you have something similar to this. Now you can obviously work on having better distances. This was not the absolute best, but now I will continue and show you afterwards. So I have finished all the way around, and it looks like this. So as you can see, it's not super tight, like you can pull it, and that's actually the idea of this stitch. It's because the sense of if someone wants to move their foot quickly, or if they have a big step to take, so it can pull, but then it doesn't rip. So that is the whole point of creating the stitch a bit more loose. And then on the front you can see it's just absolutely perfect, and it all holds like this. So I'm about to finish my stitch. So at the end, when I came back to the beginning point, I just did a knot right here, and now I will cut the thread. And that is your hem stitch for a bespoke trousers on a turn up.